Caleb Downs' leadership will be a game changer for Ohio State during spring practice.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Buckeye fans, to your Hump Day edition of Locked On Buckeyes, which is your daily Ohio State podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Jay Stevens, also the host of the Jay Stevens Podcast. And today's episode is brought to you by TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert. During today's show, we'll discuss what Ohio State needs from Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Jermaine Matthews Jr. during spring practice. But first, Caleb Downs is one of those guys that Matt Patricia can lean on. Matt Patricia's coming in and he's trying to figure out who the starters are going to be or the pecking order is going to be up and down the depth chart. And there's one guy that wears number 2 that is a coach on the field. He is someone that Matt Patricia can utilize to help him display the different things that Matt Patricia wants from the Buckeyes defense this year. And during spring practice, there's going to be a lot of install. There's going to be a lot of periods of competition. There's going to be a lot of periods where players and coaches are getting acclimated to each other. Caleb Downs can literally be that coach on the field, can be an extension of all the coaches to not just help his own position group, but to help the entire defense get up to speed with what Matt Patricia wants from Ohio State. And his leadership is going to be big for the Buckeyes during spring practice. And if I'm a coach, not just Matt Patricia, but any coach, that's the kind of guy that I want. Someone that could be an extension of me out there on the field, someone that can pick up what I'm telling him really, really quickly and can display that to his teammates. There was a story I heard about Caleb Downs when he was in high school, that they were at a recruiting camp. One even at his high school practice. They were just at a recruiting camp. And a coach was discussing things about a drill. The next thing you know, you have Caleb Downs discussing those things with the other players there at the camp with him, and he's helping them learn stuff. He's helping them figure out what needs to happen on that particular drill. This is when he was in high school. And when people think about a coach's kid, you kind of think about this kind of guy, but not every coach's kid has this in him. Not every coach's kid is able to process it the way that Caleb Downs is able to have the crazy instincts that Caleb Downs possesses, is able to have the ability to always make the right play down to down, just like Caleb Downs does. Not every coach's kid has that. Not only is he a coach's kid, his brother's in the NFL playing receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. So he knows what it takes from his brother's standpoint to play at the highest level. He has a dad who's been coaching, so he has that in his bag. But he also just has a God-given ability he's been blessed with to play this beautiful game. And for Caleb Downs, his leadership quality is one that not just Patricia, the entire team needs to lean on that young man. You are losing so many guys on defense. And this is going to be something we're going to talk about not just today, but throughout the entire offseason, because you're losing your front four. You're losing one of your starting linebackers. You're losing a corner. You're losing your nickel corner. You're losing a safety. That's a lot of production. Not just numbers you're losing. You're losing a lot of production. One of those guys that's still there is Caleb Downs. And his leadership, along with Sonny Styles, is going to be big. And if I am someone like a Kenyatta Jackson Jr., we're talking about later on in the show, or Jermaine Matthews Jr., also going to highlight him, or a Lorenzo Styles Jr. or IGB or anybody else, you want to have somebody on your side of the ball that you can lean on when times get tough. In practice, because practice isn't going to be easy. Spring practice is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be a little bit lighter at some periods than normal. There won't be the intensity that you would normally have during a Buckeye spring practice. It's going to be pretty intense, but it's going to be dialed back just a tad. The last game was on January 20th. And the bodies are battered. The bodies are bruised. They're still recovering from the long, drawn-out season. Oh, side note, I know I haven't really talked about this in a while. This is one of those times where I hope Ryan Day takes the time during some media availability during spring practice to just echo that the calendar needs to change. You can even play the same amount of games. You should not have the gaps between games that college football players normally currently have, because that's drawing things out. It doesn't make any sense, and it would be better for the product on the field if those games are played closer together. Well, those games are not played closer together. That it plays into the Buckeyes' plan during spring practice. This is going to be a spring showcase, not a spring game. What is that going to look like in totality? We don't know. And we also don't know what spring ball is going to look like for a lot of these guys. That's another reason why Caleb Downs is going to be very, very important. If I'm a player and I'm a youngster, say I'm an incoming freshman, Zion Grady, and I got my position group, I'm a defensive end from the South, and I'm trying to figure out Larry Johnson's way of doing things and try to look at some of the older guys like Kenyatta Jackson Jr. and Caden Curry and others that have been here for a while, that have been through some roller coasters, that have been through some high moments and some low moments, and trying to figure out, man, what is a Buckeye practice like? You can look at those guys in your position room, but look at some of those older leaders too. Some guys that have been a starter, a guy that's been at Alabama and at Ohio State, two of the biggest brands in the sport, to say, why did he come to Ohio State? Why did he leave the South? Could have gone to Georgia, was easily in the enrollment process to be a Georgia Bulldog, and all of a sudden, no, he canceled that thing and he's going up north. Why? Not only why, but how have the coaches helped you? And can you help me? Everybody, especially the young guys, they're looking at someone to look up to. They're looking to a player to kind of lean on when times get tough. Yes, it's easy to work with a guy that's in your own position room to kind of lean on to help you every single day. But sometimes you got to look to the older guy that might not be in your room to help you, because they've been through some stuff. I don't know another way to call it, another way to say it. They've been through some stuff. It's some of that stuff, some of the wear and tear they have on them as a player. It's going to help them in the fall, but it's also going to help you get acclimated. And as Ohio State was fortunate to have a lot of the incoming freshmen, some of the transfers join them for the last two, I believe at least the last two playoff games, that was a great time for them to look at some of these guys too. When speaking out a guy that's a game changer, and his leadership can be a game changer during spring practice, Caleb Downs is a game wrecker. And for Zion Grady and some of the other guys, they got to see a game wrecker every single day in Caleb Downs. Got to see a game wrecker every single day preparing for a game. Every single day. How does he take care of his body? What does he put in? How does he recover? What is his regimen? And they got to see that every single day. And being able to see that also goes into the leadership qualities, because some leaders, they lead by example. Well, also speaking, but they may not be able to have all the conversations they want to have with a player because of their own schedule. They might just be too busy. That's life. But in regards to this spring practice, you're having a new coordinator. You got a new coach DC and Tim Walton. Matt Guerreri is a passing game coordinator. Larry Johnson, James Leonidas, same roles. Got some new assistant position coaches that are going to be really, really huge too. And in all of that, while there's going to be some newness, there's going to be a different voice, going to be some different terminology, a guy going from the NFL back to college, and Matt Patricia. There's so many different moving parts that kind of make spring practice more intriguing than it has been in a while. Look at Caleb Downs. This young man's leadership is going to be big for the Buckeyes during spring practice. And not only will Caleb Downs' leadership be big during spring practice, Kenyata Jackson Jr.'s will as well. And I'll display that after the break. This is a message from our sponsor, Intuit TurboTax. Taxes is waiting and wondering and worrying if you are going to get any money back. And then waiting, wondering, and worrying some more. Now Taxes is matching with a TurboTax expert who can do your taxes as soon as today. An expert who gives your taxes their undivided attention as they work on your return, while you get real-time updates on their progress so you could focus on your day. An expert who will find you every deduction possible and file every form, every investment, everything with 100% accuracy. Also, you can get the most money back guaranteed. No waiting, no wondering, no worries. Now this is Taxes. Get an expert now on TurboTax.com. Only available with TurboTax Live Full Service. Real-time updates only in iOS mobile app. See guarantee details at turbotax.com/guarantees. Thank you all for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. If you have not already, feel free to take this time right now, unless you're driving or you're busy, to go ahead and follow Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube or wherever you get your fine podcasts. Leave a comment on the YouTube video and make sure you hit the notification button on whatever app you're utilizing right now to make sure you get notified anytime a new show goes live. Speaking of going live, man, I can't wait for spring ball to go live. I miss football really bad. Football's one of those sports for every fan out there that when it's gone, you miss it. Yes, there's going to be spring football coming up. I don't even know what spring league is. It XFL or USFL? I don't know what spring league it is. I know one folded or they merged. I don't know all the details about it. But spring football's right around the corner for there being live games. But Ohio State spring ball hits a little bit different. During spring ball, you're going to have a game rector and Caleb Downs utilizing his leadership expertise to help Buckeyes old and young. But also you're going to have Kenyatta Jackson Jr., who's continued to grow throughout his Buckeye career, be the leader that Larry Johnson needs him to be. And I'm right there with Larry Johnson. The Buckeyes desperately need the leadership of Kenyatta Jackson Jr. in that position room. You're losing 4 guys to the NFL. That's something that it's hard to wrap my head around. I've been saying it all year and even before the season. Yeah, all 4 guys are going to get started, going to be drafted. And sometimes it kind of rolled off the tongue so easily that we don't grasp the heaviness or how big this moment is. Your 2 defensive ends are at worst day 2 picks. Tyleik Williams, at worst, a day 2 pick. Ty Hamilton could be a 4th or 5th round pick. And what are you finding? You're going to have 4 starting defensive linemen possibly drafted in the first 5 rounds of the NFL draft. That's almost unheard of. Talk about how elite the Buckeyes secondary was last year. They would not have been elite if it wasn't for the 4 guys up front being consistent players and getting the job done down after down after down. That's exactly what Kenyata Jackson Jr. needs to strive to be. A guy that gets it done down after down after down. And Larry Johnson was very open about what he wants from Kenyata Jackson Jr., his leadership. And as we all know, when you lose 4 guys to the NFL, someone has to step up. And Kenyata Jackson Jr. has an opportunity in front of him to do that. And I think he needs to, just like Larry Johnson does. Here's Larry Johnson on Jackson Jr. Quote, "He's got to be our leader, first of all. That's our role for him. He has not been in to be the leader, move the unit. And so far, he's done a great job of doing that. Now he's going to be the guy who's going to have to demonstrate the production for us and move the yardstick for us at defensive end. And I think he has a chance to do that. Now he's going to play 40, 50 plays. We'll see him more. And I think we'll see his talent come to the front," end quote. He could have made the same statement about Caden Curry. But I think when you think about Caden Curry, you're bringing in a Logan George who's going to compete with Caden Curry for some reps, not to start. I don't believe Caden Curry is going to lose his job to Logan George. I don't believe that. But I do think there could be some reps that are taken from Caden Curry and they're going to Logan George. You could be a scenario where similar to the RBs last year, where Henderson and Judkins kind of split time for a little bit, but at the end of the day, I want to say Henderson had more carries. I forget, but it was like a 50 carry gap between 1 and 2. And I think for Caden Curry, at the end of the day will have more snaps than Logan George, but I think they're going to split them quite a bit throughout the season. Also, you don't know what Logan George is going to be first playing up to the FBS level, coming from Idaho State. I do realize that's a big jump, but it's one that I believe he's ready for because Ohio State thinks he's ready for it. But for Jackson Jr., you got to step up. Have to. Ohio State's pushing to win back-to-back national championships for the first time in the history of the program. A program that has had opportunities to win back-to-back natties multiple times. We'll go to the last time. The 2014 season, Ohio State does the unthinkable and wins a national championship with their third-string quarterback. The very next year, the roster was better than the 2014 team. They didn't get it done. Winning it in 03, I know that the 04 team really struggled and didn't really have the best roster, but didn't get it done. You go back through the history. Well, Woody Hayes won 5 natties. Go back through the history of Ohio State football. There have been times that they have had a good team in back-to-back years. The first time they won the natty, the second year, they had a really good roster, just didn't get it done. And Ohio State's pushing that right now. Not just to set history and to make history for Ohio State, but simply doing that because that's what you do. As Herm Edwards said, you play to win the game. And if you play to win the game, you win all those games, you're going to win a natty at the end of the day. Ohio State has the talent to win the natty in the upcoming season. We don't know what the chemistry is going to be like. We don't know who some starters are going to be. We don't know how the coaches are going to mesh. There's a lot of things that we're going to talk about over the next few weeks and months in regards to some of those topics, because those are very, very important for Ohio State to make another championship run. And to make championship runs, you need guys that have been around in your program for 2 or maybe 3 or maybe even 4 years to step up and to continue to grow. And that's what Jackson Jr. has done. Kenyata Jackson Jr.'s growth has been seen all throughout his career. From when he stepped his first foot on campus his freshman year to all of a sudden now he's preparing to be a full-time starter. He is a guy that's continued to grow from, I'm not really picking things up. Things aren't clicking, to Ryan Day after either year 1 or year 2 of Jackson Jr. being at Ohio State. He said he looks like an NFL guy. And when Ryan Day says it about you, my eyes are glued in on you and try to figure out, hey, man, if Ryan Day is seeing that, I need to look at you and see if I'm seeing the same thing. Ryan Day has NFL coaching experience. He's been in NFL rooms on back-to-back years. So he knows what NFL players look like from looking outside of his office window and saying, oh, okay, that's a guy. Oh, okay, that's a guy. I can just look out there and see it. And you can look out there. You're a very intelligent fan and analyst of your own right. You can look out there and tell when you're watching a football game or a basketball game. You can see if a guy has it or if a guy just looks the part. Think about it. You go out there on a Friday night in the fall and you watch your favorite high school football team, and you can look out there and say, well, that guy could be a quarterback in college. Maybe not at Ohio State, but at maybe a Bowling Green for Eddie George, or maybe at Toledo, or maybe for a D3 or NAIA school. You can look out there and say, yeah, that guy could be a quarterback in college. Why? Some of the things he does. Maybe that physically he looks like it, or maybe his accuracy, or maybe some of the intangibles he possesses. Yeah, you see some limitations in his game, but you realize that guy has the goods. And when you watch Jackson Jr. play, while it's a smaller sample size than some guys that are 3 or 4 year players in a program, you look out there and see a guy that has the goods, the length, the strength, the get off the line, has the intangibles, has the hunger, has the ability to bend around the edge, has a lot of qualities about him that make him a highly sought after man, or was by Larry Johnson, but also someone that I believe Matt Patricia can lean on. As Patricia's going to lean on Caleb Downs' leadership during spring practice and allowing him to be a game changer for the Buckeyes, the same thing is going to be a thing for Kenyata Jackson Jr. Lean on him. Allow him to push the other guys while you push him to be everything he can be in a Buckeye uniform. While he's pushing to be everything he can be in a Buckeye uniform, Jermaine Matthews Jr. is as well. And I have some high hopes for this young man during spring practice. I'll discuss those next. This episode is brought to you by Factor. Looking to optimize your nutrition this year? Factor makes eating well easy with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved meals that are fresh, never frozen, and ready to heat and eat in just 2 minutes. With 40 options across 8 dietary preferences every week, you can customize your meals to fit your lifestyle, whether it's Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, or Keto. Plus, Factor even offers wholesome smoothies, breakfasts, and grab-and-go snacks to keep you fueled all day long. I love how Factor takes the stress out of meal prepping. I recently tried their Protein Plus meals, and they were packed with flavor and kept me full throughout the day. The convenience is unbeatable, No prep, no mess, just great food in minutes. Eat smart with Factor. Get started at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off and use code LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code LockedOnCollege50 off at factormeals.com/LockedOnCollege50 off to get 50% off plus free shipping on your first box. Thank y'all for tapping in Locked on Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. Normally, those of you that are watching the YouTube are looking at your boy wearing a quarter zip and wondering, is Jay lost his mind? Jay's normally wearing a hoodie. He may occasionally put on a t-shirt and put it on the show, but he's been a hoodie guy for the past few months. Why the quarter zip? Because what's right on the corner of spring practice, and that means business. And that means on the show, we got to do business too. It also means the weather's getting nicer outside. Not only is spring ball right around the corner, it was like 60, 65 degrees today. My son and I went outside for a walk, and it was enjoyable to get out there, get some fresh air, and get a walk. Walked about a mile, maybe mile and a quarter. I don't exactly know, but it was fun getting out there and enjoying the fresh air. It's also going to be enjoyable to see Jermaine Matthews Jr. back on the football field because this young man has a massive opportunity in front of him. His development throughout his career has been fun to watch. He has been a guy that at times has played a whole lot more than we expected him to do before the season even started, which is why as you see him develop, as you see him grow, as you see his hunger, as you see him not back down for competition, those are a lot of things that intrigue us about him as a guy who's going to start in the fall. Where last year, Tim Walton looked at this young man and said, he's a starter. Tim Walton, you're only going to start 2 corners, maybe 3 if you think Jordan Hancock's a corner, but you're not going to start 4. You're not starting 5. But in his mind, that young man's a starter. He just happened to be behind IGB and Denzel Burke and Jordan Hancock. Now that 2 of the 3 of those guys are gone, there's an easy opportunity for this young man to come out there and play consistently. And I wonder if there's a scenario where Ohio State doesn't utilize Lorenzo Styles Jr. as a nickel corner, but they put Matthews Jr. at nickel a little bit, and maybe you play a Devin Sanchez or Aaron Scott Jr. or Bryce West. Probably one of the older guys and the true freshman, but there might be a scenario where Ohio State plays a different guy at the inside corner spot than Lorenzo Styles Jr., and it could be Jermaine Matthews Jr. because Jr. can get the job done. And his development, while it's been fun to watch, it's his trash talk that I love. Now, when you look up there, you see a good trash talker, someone that you know is getting under the other guy's skin, someone that you know is pushing all the right buttons. Man, that's a guy that could be in my corner every single day. Because I'm a person, when I used to play pickup basketball, man, I love talking trash. Especially if I didn't know you and I realize there's a weakness that I can push and I can try to dive into said weakness. Man, I was trying to do that all the time, as often as I could. As I think right now and take a drink of my water, I was thinking about a time I was playing pickup ball. This may have been, 10 years ago now, because I moved away and didn't play ball as much. There's a guy, I was actually a youth helper, youth worker at the church, and we went to summer camp, and there was a kid that was at a different youth group, and he came over to us across town to go play pickup basketball. I knew him. He was older. He was better than me, not going to lie about that. But I knew I could push some buttons. I knew I could do certain things. That got a little annoying because he was talking back, and a lot of guys don't talk back. I was like, who is this guy? Who are you? Why are you talking? You're not better than me. It's a mind game I was playing. And I do that all the time. Well, my buddy Allen, man, we used to play ball. I say buddy because we truly are buddies. And I would make some comments and I would push some buttons. Occasionally say some stuff about his girlfriend. But there were things I could say. And I treated that thing really lightly because I'm a jokester. So I knew I had a door that was kind of cracked that I could walk in, put my foot in there just a little bit, but I wasn't trying to go all the way in because, man, that could be bad. But I could joke about certain stuff, and it's fun. Talking trash is fun. So it's one thing I love doing. Didn't do it playing football very much, but playing pickup basketball, woo-wee, I'm talking some trash. And Matthews Jr., he ain't ashamed of it. He's not going to back down. I remember Was it Ryan Day talking about this before the Tennessee game when the Tennessee players during warmups were going back into the locker room and Jack Sawyer and Matthews Jr. were right there at that corner running their mouths and talking their stuff and they backed it up on the field. I love that. I love it. IGB, the way he talks trash, I love it. That part of the game should never be taken away. No coach should be out there saying, hey, don't talk, don't chirp, don't chirp. We don't do that. Because some guys chirp and it fuels them to play better and it fuels them to back it up. It says, oh, I'm talking all this mess. I can't just talk and not walk. I got to walk it like I talk it. And that's exactly what I think is going to happen in the fall. That Jermaine Matthews Jr. is going to walk it like he talks it every single day. And you could be looking at a guy that's going to play his way into being a day 2 pick when he enters the NFL draft. Because he can be that special. Here's the thing, though. While he's going to walk it like he talks it, during spring practice, he has to continue to develop. You haven't been a full-time starter. There's a level of reps that you haven't had in a game consistently. There's an amount of reps and plays that you haven't seen. You know what it's like to game plan for somebody else, but what is it like to be game planned for every single week? You haven't learned that yet. And as you bring in a guy from the National Football League that's done a lot of great things out there, you are going to have to lean on him. He's going to lean on the leaders at Ohio State. Lean on some of those coaches at Ohio State to help him get acquainted and acclimated to what Ryan Day wants. But Junior's going to have to lean on the other guys to help him. The weight room, don't take those reps off. Don't take those suicide bike drills off. Don't think you could just let up just a little bit. Don't think that. One thing I was listening to Marshall Faulk talk recently, I think he's coaching somewhere. Not exactly sure the team he's coaching with. But he was talking to running backs in the RB room, I believe. I don't know. He could be a special speaker or not. I'm not sure. He basically said, you can Google me. Now, he wasn't being arrogant, but if you don't know who I am, you can Google me. Made a little comment, kind of goofy. Not the whole Kurt Signetti thing, where it was more of a little, somewhat of an arrogant type of thing that he was having. But Marshall Faulk was just saying, like, if you guys don't know, because he retired before a lot of these kids are even watching NFL football every single week, like, you can Google me and figure me out. But he made a comment about effort not needing any talent. And when he talked about effort not needing talent and hustle not needing talent and all of these things that are literally energy and effort, you don't have to have talent to go all out. You don't have to have talent to complete a 40-yard dash with all of your might. You don't have to have talent to complete a drill. No. What do you need? You need to have energy. You need to have a hunger. You need to be able to have a desire. You don't have to have talent to do all that stuff. And for Matthews Jr., what does he need to lean on? Energy, effort, hustle. Those 3 things don't need any talent. He can do that. Kenyata Jackson Jr. can do that. Caleb Downs can do that. All 3 of them can lean on sometimes their instincts, sometimes their experience. And you can lean on those things. But energy, effort, and hustle, those 3 things don't take any talent. And if you have that mindset going into spring ball and you realize your leadership or your growth or your development is very, very key for Ohio State to be the best team it can be, and you tap into that during spring ball while utilizing the energy and effort and the hustle that is needed every single day on and off the field, you're going to have Ohio State be in a great spot to pursue a natty in 2025. Thank you for tapping Locked On Buckeyes and making this show your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On College Basketball with Isaac Shade and Andy Patton. Guys, March is here, so be the most informed college basketball fan throughout the madness. Find Locked On College Basketball and Locked On Buckeyes on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me on any social media platform at jstevens07. Send every email to jstevens317@gmail.com. This has been Locked On Buckeyes on a hump day. We'll see you next time.